Have you ever been in a situation where you desire to use the specific sewing foot to realize that it is compatible with your sewing machine? It is so common that it happens because of the shank of the sewing machine. Unfortunately, most of the high shank machines are incompatible with various presser foot available in the market, and they are not a great choice for hobbyists. A low shank machine is somehow the one you desire to work on distinct projects of yours. But how does a low shank differ from a high shank? Keep watching this video to know the differences between low shank and high shank. Before getting to the differences, do you know what shank is? Yes? Before understanding the difference between a high shank and a low shank machine, you need to understand what a shank is. It is the essential point that differentiates a low shank from the high one. What is a low shank? A low shank sewing machine is a sewing machine that boasts a smaller rod between the presser foot and the attachment screw. The length of the low shank is about 3/4 inches and offers several options to hobbyists when it arrives to change the foot. There are numerous options for low shank sewing machines, and if you are a tailor or hobbyist or designer, you should consider investing in a good low shank sewing machine. A low shank machine is also a valuable tool for beginners because it is highly versatile and flexible in technique. What is a high shank? High shank sewing machines are the one has a measurement of the high shank between 1 to 1/4 inches. They appear on industrial machines rather than domestic ones. They also appear for domestic purposes but are mostly suitable for industrial machines. If your sewing machine also has a presser foot longer than 3/4 inches, then your machine might have a higher shank. Most commercial sewing machines have a higher shank, and quilting machines are also one of them. The high shank sewing machines are the old design and rarely found sewing machines in the market. These machines were made in the 1960s and 70s and had a huge high shank measuring. The shanks in these sewing machines are used to be inclined slightly, and they are also known as slant shank sewing machines. Differences between low shank and high shank. Here are the differences between them to start you off right, with the right method for each of the low shank and high shank sewing machines. Purpose. The primary distinction between low shank and high shank sewing machines is their purpose. Low shank sewing machines are used for domestic purposes, while high shank can be used for industrial purposes. Length. Length is the essential feature that differentiates both low shank and high shank sewing machines. The low shank sewing machine has the length from the bottom of the presser foot to the center of the thumb screw of 1/2 inches or less. The high shank sewing machine length from the bottom of the presser foot to the center of the thumb screw is about 1 inch or more. Cost. Price again is the factor you should not ignore while selecting the sewing machine you desire. The low shank sewing machines are cheaper and inexpensive. Meanwhile, the high shank sewing machines are more expensive than the low shank machine. Presser foot. Presser's foot is not what differentiates a low shank and high shank machine, but it is necessary to know that presser foot the low shank and high shank machine will accept. The low shank sewing machine will accept the low shank presser foot, while the high shank sewing machines will accept only the high shank presser foot. Efficiency. It would be wrong if we don't differentiate between the efficiency of a low shank and a high shank sewing machine. They both have their purpose. A low shank machine is a versatile machine that can work quickly with embroidering to stitching denim pants with a change of presser foot. The high shank sewing machine can also be versatile for some challenging sewing projects. Compatibility. One can change the high shank machine to the low shank one with an adapter, which is a small piece of metal used in shank modification. Sometimes, the high shank machines become incompatible with some of the presser foot. We are going to end this video right away. If you have any query or information to share, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.